This is Brian, and welcome back to this commentary playthrough of Dragon Warrior 2. And what I'm thinking could be the last part, potentially, depending on how long this tower ends up being. Okay. Oh, maybe this is where we... if I can menu properly. Wait a minute. Oh. Yeah, I was looking at... I don't have the Sword of Destruction or the Gremlin's armor equipped anymore. So I guess maybe it didn't work with the whole Charm of Rubris thing. It just took them off and put my other stuff back on. Seems weird. I swear I did it. I put them on. Well, either way. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. What did I give that to? Okay, yeah. Let's try the Echoing Flute. I still hadn't played that anywhere, I don't think. Okay, so you can actually walk into these areas. Zuzu. Well, that's a different one. I think I'll just go ahead and go up the stairs here. There might be other ways, but for now, I found this one. Let's just try this. Yeah, I mean, any staircase that goes upward, I'll just keep using that for now. Zarlox, that's another new one. Of course, for the most part, all of the enemies in here are going to be reskins of things we've already seen, I would suppose. And that's holding true so far. Ah, he does a heal all too, huh? That doesn't hurt too much. And at least when he does that, he doesn't get a turn to heal. Yeah, Orpheo's not doing that much damage to him, though. Okay, good enough. As long as I'm like at least halfway through here, I think I should be okay. As far as my resources go. Okay, actually this seems like it's probably it. I think that's going to be Hargon up there in the middle. Yeah, I better use Orpheo's magic for step guard. Now, is this just going to be the final boss fight? And is it going to have more than one form? Because I don't remember. Who comes hither to disturb the great Hargon? Dost thou know who I am? Yes. Such audacity is unforgivable. Might as well have her use spells, I suppose. Right chance. That's the one that can potentially put you to sleep. So yes, Hero is slightly protected from it. Okay, so yeah, that's what I thought. Increases our defense power. So that might help a little bit. defense actually lowers their defense power, but I doubt if it's actually going to hit him, so... Okay, there's got to be another form. That can't have been that easy. Thou hast defeated Hargon. Thou hast proven a mighty warrior, mightier than even Hargon the Great. But there is one even greater than I, sorcerer of the Shadow Time, a being of pure malice that none shall overcome. I send thee now to meet Malroth. Didn't we have the Eye of Malroth, and weren't we in Malroth's cave? Are these just flames, or are these people? Okay. Where do I gotta go? Okay. Is the tower crumbling around me? There, that sounds a little more like it and looks a little more like it. Final boss, I guess I could have healed fully in between, but we weren't that far down. Go ahead and do my buff there again. Guess I'll try defense and see if it does lower his defense. Of course, he dodged. Using heal already. Okay, it did decrease defense. Let me try those again just to see if they can actually act. Okay. Yeah, so that does stack, and yeah, Hero didn't do that much against him in the first round there, so hopefully we can actually drop his defense. Wake up, Orfeo. Actually see if I can get his defense down even more. I didn't really pay attention to what it said there. I think I better try to heal Orfeo again, because if he hits him again, yeah, that's gonna be... Really? Is that it? I mean, I guess I am pretty OP as far as levels go. Thou hast defeated the Malroth. Thou hast delivered the world from Malroth's evil. Great is the victory, and greater the rewards. I, Rubus, have watched thy struggles, and I am proud of thee. Go now. It's one of the things where we don't have any encounters anymore now. Maybe. That's what they did in the first game, at least. You're just free to wander around the world and head back to the castle. I would imagine it looks like that's what's going on here, too. Well, return should just take me back to the shrine, or to the monolith in this area. So, let's go in here and talk to these people. The people will be free again, for the evil magic is dissipated, like smoke in the wind. Oh, it is like a dream, to think that someone had the power to destroy Hargon. Hargon wasn't even the problem. I would imagine these tiles still hurt. Oh, nope, they don't. Thanks to thee, peace is returned. So you completely are just basically free. Yeah, now if I step on this one again, it'll take me back to the town here. Doors are still locked, though. I'm not gonna, like, go around talking to everybody. I'm just gonna go back to the castle. So if you're curious for that type of thing, I apologize. They might all say the same few things anyway, it looks like. I would imagine what they want me to do is to return to our hero's home, which is Maidenhall. So that's where I'm gonna head. I just need to remember roughly in what direction we need to head. It should be up over in this direction. Hopefully I'm far enough west that I don't hit the shore. Now, where is this? Okay, this is what I want, I think. Yep. I could go back to Cannock as well, but maybe it'll make me. But overall, I think Maidenhall should be the goal. In Moonbrook, I guess, for the princess's home, but pretty much destroyed, and everybody was ghosts there. Unless there was a way that it, like, brought him back. Now thou art king of Maidenhall, and must take thy throne. Can I talk to my companions now? Thou shalt go. What? I seek not the crown. Hero, thou art of the line of Erdrick, and have proven thy heritage by thy deeds. Now is the time for thee to take the throne. Will it be so? Sure. Hail all to the new monarch of Maidenhall. Now, Orfeo, Prince of Cannock, come forth. Eta, Princess of Moonbrook, come forth. This charge I lay on the three heroes. That for... Oh, it's auto-scrolling. Great. 3 cheers for the new monarch of Maidenhall. Hip hip hooray! Then peace returned. Yep, monster designer, Akira Toriyama. I recognize him at least. Some of the others, maybe not so much. I'm not that familiar with all of the creators of these games. But I think Toriyama was involved in other things, including, like... Is he the one that did Dragon Ball Z? And I think also Chrono Trigger. I believe he was part of that team too. We'll just let the credits play, because that really didn't take too long to finish today, so we'll let credits go and then I'll just give a short review. It's an old NES game, so I wouldn't imagine there's going to be much more to an ending, if anything at all. It's probably just going to be the credits and then it'll say the end. Yeah, one thing for some of these older games too, I can imagine the translation wasn't quite as much of an issue as it is for some of the more modern games, because there just wasn't nearly as much dialogue going on, and not as much to translate. Also, why the credits are a lot shorter, for one thing, I suppose. Alright, the end. And I don't imagine it's going to move from this screen, even if I hit some buttons. Nope, looks like it's going to stay there. So let's go ahead and give a short review here. Now, for my reviews, all I usually do is I'll just kind of give you my feelings on the game. And usually as part of that, what I'll do is I'll talk about the things that I liked a little bit more about the game, and then some things that I didn't like as much, or maybe I thought they could have done a little better. And we start with the positive points. So mostly it's just going to go on one general theme, and then I just have some sub-points to it. And that's basically that Dragon Warrior 1 was a good game. And to me, at least, this one just seems like a complete, just upgraded, bigger version of that. I mean, for part of it, they did even include some of the old areas from the first game. I mean, overall, they made the landmass a lot smaller, but you still had the two main castles in there, and the shrine where you got the helmet of Erdrick. So yeah, I mean, I know this isn't... Most people wouldn't consider this to be their favorite game in the series from what I've read. But I still think it's a very good game, and I'd put it above the first one probably just because, well, there is so much more to it. But the first one was a good foundation to go on. And I think more than Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior has done that, or Dragon Quest, I guess, as you got into the later games. That's what they call it. This series has done a better job, I think, of sticking to the formula and just building upon it, kind of. Whereas Final Fantasy, they have a general formula, but they experiment quite a bit and change up the battle system and everything completely from game to game. And whereas this one, I think when you get into it, if you're familiar with any of the games, kind of know what you're getting a little more. So it depends on your style, I suppose, but sometimes it's nice to see something familiar. And sometimes it's nice to experiment, so to each his own. Yeah, now part of the upgrades, one of the things I wanted to hit on here is it's nice to have multiple party members. For one thing, that makes it so you don't get wiped out nearly as often because, well, you can afford to have one player get knocked down and you can still at least limp on with the others trying to make it back to town. Or once you got revived for Orfeo, it was pretty easy to just revive one of the other two as long as he wasn't the one taken out. And they did give you the Leaf of the World tree, but yeah, that kind of felt like it was such a rare thing that it wasn't something like you could just rely on that. Only in a pinch, I would say, would you want to count on using that. But yeah, I like the way they did that. Next thing is the spells. A lot of them are kind of the same as in the first game, but once again, they just upgraded on it and added to it, I think. So I liked a lot of the spells and the way they set it up. Not too much for offensive spells for the most part. Explodet was decent. And early on, yeah, some of the Infernos, I used that a fair bit, but especially after you get the item, the staff for the princess, so you can just use it as an item instead of using the spell. I think that was a lot better to do as far as economically, resource-wise. Some of the other spells, yeah, the healing spells generally, that's always great. You need that if you're going to survive, especially if they don't give you much inventory space for healing items. And then the other stuff, like buffs and debuffs, there wasn't a lot of that, but it was decent. I mean, you got the simple stuff going on. That's all you need. Outside and Return were great for quality of life. So I liked those. Open was a spell that is nice, but you get it so late in the game, or as far as level-wise for the princess, that, yeah, you're still going to have to rely on those keys. And it's not that it's a problem to use the keys, It's just that they take up so much inventory space with having 3 different keys to use, since inventory was limited. Overall, though, I like all the spells and the way they did it. Well, I guess I wouldn't say all the spells, but overall, most of the spells. The last thing I wanted to touch on for this was just I wanted to just reiterate and kind of leave it at the fact that, yeah, this was a great way to build upon a solid structure, I think, and just add more to it. Quality of life stuff, putting a little more towns into it. Like, what was Dragon Warrior 1? If you add all of the grinding and leveling in it, maybe about a 20-hour game or so. Maybe 30 if you really level. It'd be a lot of time into it. I don't know if you could even get to 30 with leveling if you were doing it efficiently. But this one, well, it was a good 15 to 20 hour game, I think, even without doing a lot of leveling. And then with the leveling I did, it puts it up into the 35 range or so. So yeah, for a Nintendo game, regular Nintendo, fairly decent length, I think. And having the ability to actually save it, which, I mean, the first game had, but a lot of NES games didn't have that, so that's always nice. Now let's talk about some things that I personally mostly just didn't like, or I felt they could have done better. First off, and this is part of just what era the game came out of, there wasn't a lot to the story. Yeah, it's just pretty simple. Heroes get together, go to stop bad guy. Don't really get a lot of reasoning into what's going on with the bad guy, why bad guy's bad. And there's one of those things at the end where you find out that, oh, the bad guy we've been fighting against the whole game, not even the bad guy, Malroth. I don't really like when they do that kind of thing. I prefer a build-up where you know who the bad guy is the whole game, and they make it quite clear why he needs to be stopped. Like, of course, there's the generic trope of, well, he's trying to take over the world. Okay, well, yeah. I just like it to be delved into a little more. But like I said, I think that's partially because it was just a regular NES game. Limitations of the system and just early on in the evolution of RPGs and whatnot. Next thing, I did talk about the spells and how much I liked them, but one thing I didn't like is how they were distributed between your two spellcasters. The time that you learned spells and the spells that each character got didn't really make a lot of sense all the time. Like I already mentioned, like the open spell for the princess and how she got it so late, which, I mean, that's excusable if you want to consider it to be like one of the best spells, so it makes sense that she didn't learn it really early. And plus, yeah, it kind of, you don't want her to learn it so soon that you might actually like get it before you get one of the keys, because that would just make the whole journeying to get them an obsolete thing. I get that. But the fact that, like, Orfeo learns stuff like outside and return fairly early on, and then she also learns them, Peita did, but way later? I don't really get that. I guess the only thing I could say to explain it and to make it sense would be that they wanted you to still be able to use them, like if Orfeo was knocked down in battle. So I suppose that's nice. And you could strategize a little better with your MP, I suppose. The other thing I wanted to talk about the spells, though, and what I didn't like is that Orfeo and Peita, it seemed like it was setting him up as more of the healer and buffer, debuffer, and she was like the offensive magic user. But they didn't really do that completely, because he had like the best healing spell, Heal All. He didn't get that. And he had Revive. She didn't get that. So that kind of splits the healing roles. But offensively, he did get some of the early offensive spells, and but he didn't get Explode It, and she gets that. So that makes her seem like the offensive caster, but I would have appreciated more of a well-defined role in their casting, I guess. To have him be more like a knight, but at the same time, more like a paladin, maybe a holy knight who could use healing and stuff, but overall relied on physical attacking. And yeah, I'd just prefer her to be more like a black mage or black wizard, I suppose. That's not a big enough thing to make me not like the game, though, or anything. It's just a minor criticism I have. The next thing I wanted to touch on was the difficulty of the game. Overall, it was fine. I didn't really feel like you had to stop and grind ever too much. I did for a little while after we picked up each new character, just to kind of get them a little bit caught up. But I don't know if you would have had to. You probably could have just tried to venture on and level up as you went. The only thing was, towards the end, once you got to like the Cave of Roan, the Cave to Roan, and then if I would have tried to move on without doing a lot of grinding before the final area, yeah, that part would have been pretty brutal. As it turned out, and as much leveling as I did do, the final dungeon was not much of an issue at all. So I can't complain about that, other than I know it would have been brutal if I hadn't leveled up, because the first time I played through the game, I did try to just go through it, and yeah, there's no way. Well, I say that. I should say there's no way for me. I know there are probably speedrunners and whatnot that can make it through it at low level and they're just fine, but I don't know the strategies well enough or the tricks and whatnot to be able to figure it out. And I don't want to spend that much time on one individual game to get to the point where I could speedrun it, really. I like to play a variety a little better. The last thing I wanted to talk about, and I complained about it throughout the playthrough a few times, and I think I even touched on it a little bit in the review here so far. Inventory space, even though you had 3 people to hold inventory, it was still pretty limited, especially with all of the special items you ended up getting. Like you had the moon fragment, which I think I probably could have dropped after you used it to get into the cave. You had the Eye of Alroth, the Charm of Rubris, the flute. You had all the keys. If you wanted to hold on to the healing leaf, the revival leaf, you had that. Plus all of your inventory for equipment was in the same menu. I feel like at least splitting up equipment or having a different menu for key items would have really helped out a lot. And plus, medical herbs and stuff like that still can't stack in this game. So stuff like that would have been a great quality of life improvement. And I'm sure going forward, I don't know which game they start fixing some of that stuff, but I'm sure they do, so it's just another matter of being part of the evolution of the series, I suppose. But it did draw back a little bit in this one from enjoyment in some places, at least. So overall, yeah, I like this game. Not as much as like Final Fantasy 1, but to me, this feels more like an actual competitor to Final Fantasy 1, or a more just comparison than Dragon Warrior 1 does. Just because it came out first, I get that, but yeah, it was just more rudimentary and small compared to like Final Fantasy. But this one is about equivalent in length and content, I think. Heck, this one might even have a little more content, I suppose, if you're talking about towns and stuff on the world and different dungeons to go into. But overall, I think some of the dungeons are shorter in this one, so yeah, I don't know. Overall, like on time-wise, I think it still equals out pretty well. Now, as far as if I had to grade this one, what would I give it? It's still an RPG. I like RPGs. It's one of the better ones of its generation, at least. So something like a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10 probably for me. I think that's fair enough. Now, what we're going to do next in this time slot, I had mentioned it before, but I'm pretty sure what I want to do is I'm going to go to Secret of Evermore. If you haven't played that one and you're familiar with Secret of Mana, they seem like they're kind of made by like the same team, but they're not. Partially because I think Secret of Evermore was made by the American team, and Secret of Mana, Second Densetsu, was made by a Japanese team, I think, in the company. But I think they're both Square. And you can tell there are a lot of differences. Like they have I'm sure they took a lot of inspiration from Secret of Mana, or they might have had even some of the same people work on it. I don't know. But they have the same ring menu type of system. But the magic and the weapons aren't quite the same. The weapons still level in kind of the same way, but magic is a lot different. They use an alchemy system. And I prefer the way they do magic in Secret of Mana, but I still like Secret of Evermore. But yeah, we'll talk more about that when we get into it. So we'll get you there for that one tomorrow. Anyway, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this series and would like to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe or follow. And we'll catch you next time.